So as you lie down onto the mat, just arms out beside you, sort of starting from Shavasana, if you will. Try to relax the arms, relax the legs, close your eyes. Give attention and awareness to your breath. Attention and awareness to how the body is meeting the ground here. The focus for class today is stretch. Find room and space to stretch and lengthen in the body, and in so doing, room, space, and comfort to stretch mind and soul. Is there anything you can do here to feel even a little bit heavier? If you wiggle the fingers and the toes, can you leave yourself a little bit more released? Imagine the shoulders, the hips, the heels falling heavier into the ground. Back of the head. Soften the eyes behind the eyelids. Release the tongue from the roof of your mouth. Let out a good sigh. That usually does the trick to feel heavy and released. And then stretch the arms overhead now so that some of yourself comes away from the mat. And you get a little longer, take up more space in the stretch. Pull your right knee into the chest. And then straighten the leg towards the sky. Be easy on yourself here. It's the first starting movement. Hold on behind your thigh. Feel free to bend your knee so that you can take the thigh a little closer into the body. And then keeping the leg that little bit closer. Can you go any bit straighter? So sometimes we have to use some force to stretch, yeah? Force within reason. And then release the right leg all the way down. Pull the left knee into the chest. Hold around the shin to bring the thigh closer to you at first. That nice flexion in the hip flexor. And then change, straighten the leg. Hold on behind your thigh. Make sure you're not holding behind the knee, but really behind the thigh. Let the knee bend so that you can take the leg even a little closer again to the belly. And then do your best to stretch and straighten the leg a bit more. Not having to go all the way straight, just a little bit straighter. Okay, and then we'll release the leg all the way down. Again, stretch both arms overhead, getting as long as you can. And now pull both knees into the chest at the same time. Separate the knees out towards the line of your armpits. Still feet as if they're together, but knees out to the side. And then lift your head and shoulders up and give yourself kind of this wide hug. Change your hands to hold on to your feet. And then happy baby, feet up towards the sky as you press the knees, the thighs down towards the mat. Little bit of a, I always say it's a little bit of a tug of war as the feet try to press up, the hands press down, and that gives you the stability to stretch from. Okay, one more thing here on our back before we sit up. Take both knees over towards the right side in a supine twist. Hands can just go out towards a T or goalpost. I almost always do this twist at the end of my practice. Notice how it feels here at the beginning. And take the knees up and across. I do it at the end of practice because it feels so good to me. My experience right now is, nope, I just want to get out of this one. That amazing reminder of what we can do with our time on the yoga mat to open ourselves. Okay, bring it back into the center and carefully rock yourself up to a seated position and change to all fours. Place the hands under the shoulders and the knees under the line of the hips. And then do a little cat and cow. Let the body move back and forth, the spine move back and forth. Just working with your breath, going at the pace that feels good for you here. Take the hands out now way towards the top edge of your mat, the knees a little further back, and press your hips back towards child's pose. But here I'm asking for puppy pose, which is still seat high in the air. With your chest moving down to the floor, look forward towards your hands. It's a really big stretch in the shoulders. Open through the chest. It seemed to be my dog's cue to have playtime. Stay here for one more breath. And then do sit all the way back to child's pose. So sink the hips towards the heels. Walk both hands over towards the right side. Keep going past the 2 towards the 3 on a clock face today if possible. So way over there. And then walk the hands across the center and on over to the second side. And again, try to go past the 10, more towards the 9 on a clock face. And then come back to the middle. Downward facing dog. Tuck the toes, lift your hips. Big full body stretch here. Actively press the hands down and forward, lift the hips up and back. Lengthen, stretch through the back of the legs, send your heels closer to the ground. Feel free to pedal it out. And then bend your knees a lot and walk your hands to your feet. Let your upper body hang and release here. Ragdoll pose. Hold on to the elbows. Sway a little side to side if you wish. Let a few sighs out. Recently, I've been drawn to pick up my card deck that's called The Universe Has Your Back, giving really positive statements to guide the day. I used to use it a lot, and then I didn't, that kind of thing. Slowly roll up to standing, roll the shoulders up, back, and down a couple of times. Today, the card that I drew out says, when I lean on the faith of the universe, peace becomes real. Sit back, trust a bit, move into that trust and flows, how that appeals to me. Here as you stand at the back of the mat in Tadasana, can you almost lean back into your heels? Have enough trust to lean just a tiny bit back, and then you strengthen in your abdomen to keep yourself upright. We have such an individual presence in how that trust comes in. Inhale, lift the arms up to the sky, and then exhale, forward fold. Walk the hands forward all the way to plank pose. In plank, lower flat down to the yoga mat. Reach your hands back behind you. Shalabhasana, lift everything that you can up away from the mat. As you release, press back to all fours and swing the right foot forward into your low lunge. Pick up the back knee and take the right hand to the sky and twisted low lunge. Lower the right hand and again lower the back knee. Today, bring both hands up to the front thigh. Think taller first in the spine, and then hips a little down and forward. Take the left arm up and reach a little bit to the side. If you want to enhance that a bit more, hold on, right hand to the left wrist, and give it a little more tug, that little extra stretch. Great. As we release, both hands down to the yoga mat, step forward, both feet to the front of the mat. We'll get to the second side in a minute. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Stand up, reach the arms to the sky. And exhale, go right back down. Half lift. Step back, this time to plank. Lower down to the mat. Keep the hands open or interlace behind your back as you lift. Change to all fours. Swing the left foot forward. Take your time, build that low lunge. And then add the twist, left arm to the sky. Stay here, breathe here. Lower the left hand back down, the right knee. Build the hands to the front thigh. Again, get taller first, which might feel like a pull back. And from pulling back, then you can go deeper in. Hips down and forward. Take the right arm up. Feel free to hold on to the wrist as you reach to the left side. If you feel it all stuck in the low back, come out of the hips a little bit. Sometimes coming out of the pose a little bit will help us actually find the depth of the stretch. Okay, we release. step forward, half lift, forward fold, stand, both arms to the sky, palms together, center of the chest. Place your right foot onto the left leg in tree pose. If possible, place the foot onto the thigh. If best for you, your balance and sense of opening today, keep the leg lower on the calf. Let's lift our arms up to the sky. Separate them really wide. Relax the shoulders. Notice how much engagement and stability you need to stay balanced, and yet can you be softer in that overall presentation through fingertips, shoulders, face. Change, step the right foot all the way back into a high lunge. Both arms back up to the sky. And again, high lunge. We use this as a pose of strength, of fullness. Can you show that, but also be vulnerable enough to be soft, the fingertips, shoulders relaxed. Let it be just a little bit more easeful. And on the exhale, can you stretch a little more today? Yeah, you guys are great. Place the hands down either side of the front foot. Step it backwards to downward facing dog. Still using that right foot for tree pose, we're going to try it from side plank. Balance on your left hand, outer edge of the left foot. At first, step your right foot forward so you still get to use both legs for stability. Right arm up to the sky. Here, if I notice that I shorten my stance and have my shoulder over the front wrist, I usually just scoot out through the back leg, the left leg right now, until I've got an angle from the wrist to the shoulder. Try taking the right foot onto the left leg as high as you did before for tree pose here. Again, can you create that strength, engagement, and stabilization enough to allow you to more fully stretch, open? Okay, back to downward facing dog. Nicely done. Come forward to plank pose. Lower all the way down to the mat. Just baby cobra. Lift about 25% of the height that you normally do in cobra. Little press through the hands, press through the front of the feet. Little lift. Child's pose, push all the way back. Downward facing dog. And look towards the front of the mat. Make your way forward. Step, jump, or walk. Inhale, half lift. Forward fold. Stand up, reach the arms to the sky. Palms together, center of the chest. Breath in. Breath out. Okay. Left leg into tree pose here. Place your left foot onto the right leg. Again, if it works, go all the way up to upper thigh. If you need to have the other hand against a wall, a structure to keep you more balanced, feel free to. Arms overhead as you're ready. That same sense of being free enough in the arms, open enough. Take in the trust as you steady your butts. And then step the left foot back behind you to come into your high lunge. Undeniable presence here. One more breath. Lower the hands down either side of the front foot. Step it all the way back to downward facing dog. And then from here, side plank. So the right hand goes a little in front of the left hand to give you that extra drawing back of the shoulder from the back of the wrist. And then outer edge of the right foot, step the left foot forward. You've got your kickstand. You could stay with the kickstand. Certainly a good option. Or try with the left foot on the right leg. Push the hips a little bit higher as you find that stability to stretch longer. From your side plank, go back to downward facing dog. Forward to plank. Lower down to the mat. This time, how about 50% of our cobra? Peel the chest, maybe just above the navel coming up. Pelvis still firmly on the mat. Hug the elbows into the side. Keep them deeply bent. Child's pose, push back. Change to downward facing dog. And this time around, walk the hands backwards to the feet. Way back to where we started. Half lift. Forward fold. Stand, reach the arms to the sky. Take palms together, center of the chest. Check in, awareness, breath, body. How are you feeling? Take a slow walk back to the top edge of your yoga mat. Let's go again, arms to the sky. Forward fold. Okay, keep right foot forward, step your left foot back. Let's start on this side. Right foot forward, left foot back. Lower the left knee again to the mat. Walk your hands up to the front thigh. Yeah, so same thing we've already done, get stronger. And then a little deeper into the stretch. Arms to the sky. This time, instead of taking hold of the wrist, look up in between the hands. Can you bring palms together? Bend the elbows a little bit to give you some space. If you take the hands a little bit behind the head so that you're looking up but you can't see your hands right now, then can you stretch your arms as straight as they'll go? Big stretch. Comes into the back bend. And release the hands on either side of the front foot. Just kind of pause for a moment. Okay, staying right foot forward, bring the hands to the inside. Heel toe your right foot out. Turn the toes and the knees so it's kind of hanging off of the mat, that 30-degree angle out. Same thing with the hip, all gets to go at the same pace. Put the weight onto the left hand so you can kind of lean away from it. With your right hand, press into your inner thigh and kind of massage it out a little bit. If this is all working, you can even come to the outer edge, like pinky toe edge of your foot. Be good, gentle here enough. Stay with the sense of pulling in, strengthening on every inhale so that there's room to stretch safely on every exhale. Okay, If you've rolled to the outside of the foot, put it back flat down on the mat, and let's go into our twisted monkey. Pull the left heel in towards your seat. Look up over the right shoulder so that you see your back foot, and then can you hold on to it? If you're holding on to the foot and still have a little more space, lift your hips again out of the stretch for a moment so that the hip and heel come a little closer to one another. And then keeping hip and heel close, try to go back into a little more depth of the stretch. Big time quad stretch there. Remembering to soften, so roll the top shoulder back, bottom shoulder back, let the head even move back a little bit. And slow release. Go back, knee and foot, center of the mat. Step backwards to downward facing dog. In that shape, pedal out the feet. Probably notice some difference from one leg to the other. We did our job. Let's even things out. So if you come down to the knees, left foot forward, hands go to either side. And I apologize, I hadn't specifically mentioned, of course, hands can be underneath blocks anytime that I'm saying ground. Bring the hands now to your front thigh. You lift up out of the position a little bit. And stretch the arms to the sky as the hips go a little down and forward. Let's practice again here. Palms together. Bend the elbows. And take the hands behind the eyesight. Then you can try to look up a little bit higher, try to follow the hands, but you can't quite find them. And then stretch the arms as straight as they'll go. I cross my thumbs to help. So always that strength coming in to safely stretch. And release. Hands go to either side of the front foot. You just kind of hang forward for a moment. We're ready. Switch hands to the inside of the foot. Heel toe the left foot out to the left edge of the mat. Good there. Turn the toe, knee, hip out the 30 degrees. And we're taking these pauses with each phase so that we can check in, like, is that as far as you need to go? If you've got a little bit more access in the hip, roll towards the pinky toe side of the left foot. So it's like opening a book. The big toe mound comes off of the mat, and the knee, the hip keep opening all at the same rate. If you've opened the book, close it back up. Put your weight onto that right hand so it can reach up a little bit out so that you really can get some weight off of the front leg. And then with the left hand, a little bit of a massage from inner thigh space out to the knee. Pull the right heel in. We switch to twisted monkey. Look over your top shoulder. Now, before I mentioned like soften the top shoulder, it's very hard to do that if we don't have the bottom shoulder softened. So bend the bottom elbow, the right elbow, so that you can move that right shoulder back, which is going to give you some access to soften and turn open through the top shoulder. And then the hand can reach back and come out of the stretch of the hips a bit to tack heel and butt closer to one another. And then keeping them close, try to deepen the stretch in the right hip flexor again. When things are hard, try to pace and lengthen out the exhale. That's with all things. Release. Come back around, hands on either side of that front foot. Step it all the way backwards, downward facing dog. Paddle it out. Step the feet a little forward, the hands a bit back. So from the center of your mat, facing the short side, standing forward fold, Uttanasana. Make your legs as straight as they'll go, keeping all 10 fingers on the ground. Of course, we see this pose plenty in our transitions. I like to keep the feet hip distance apart, just a little more spacious, easeful. It's kind of what I'm looking for out of this practice. You might be going for something a little different, like the feet together. Do what works for you. Don't be afraid to try something a little different. Okay, and then from here, do heel toe your feet as wide as the sticky mat. Turn the toes out that same degree that you did in Twisted Monkey, and sit down into the hips, heels, in Yogi Squat, Malasana. Shift around a bit until you find your Malasana, your Yogi Squat. If accessible, take the elbows, upper arm bones, and press towards your inner thighs so that you kind of rise out like a lotus flower. Think of extending out from the muddy pit of the ground. Stay here for one more breath. And then place the hands, just fingertips back on the ground so that you can safely help yourself up to standing. Just roll up. Shake it out a little bit. Turn to the long edge of your mat and take a wide stance here. All things leading us to a little more external rotation in the hips today. Point the left toes straight ahead, the right toes turn them out, and then bend the right knee until you come towards Warrior Two and the legs. You bend and straighten a couple of times until you find your low point. We're thinking about a 90-degree line from inner thigh to knee straight down over the back of the heel. Extend the arms out, gaze out over the fingertips. Again, that mindset of the high lunge that we started with, where we're trying to be released, relaxed in the shoulders. Arms strong enough to keep them straight, but soft enough at the same time. Side angle. Elbow to knee, top arm palm down overhead. Try going fingertips to block if you're using it, or to the floor, right to the inside of your leg. And then you use your upper arm bone to keep pressing the inner thigh a little bit back and wider so that your front knee stays over the center of your foot. And then the tricky thing is, in doing all of that on the front side, we often forget about the back side. Scoop your right tailbone enough underneath you that it keeps the back leg from collapsing forward. Can you press into your back leg and come all the way back up to Warrior Two? And then straighten and turn, second direction. Sometimes for more ease, I'll turn the back toes in just a slight bit, especially as I'm working into the front leg. So if you noticed, it was really hard to keep the back leg from collapsing. Why not just turn the toes in a tiny bit? And that actually gives me a little bit more access to not fall forward. So left sit bone pulls underneath, elbow to the knee, top arm palm down overhead. I imagine that anterior hip point of the right hip pulling up towards the chest rather than forward or back. It's trying to lengthen, lengthen, lengthen. If you're reaching further down, reach further down. Excellent. Come back to warrior two. Straighten the leg, turn the toes. Now parallel to one another. I am adjusting myself, you could try this, so that my toes are right at the front edge of the mat. And then bend your knees a little bit so that it's easy enough to take your fingers to that same front edge of the mat. Now keeping fingers and toes right where they are, make the legs a little straighter, lengthen the spine, think more like a back bend shape, like you're trying to do those belly down back bends, look forward. Now can you put your head on that same line? My answer is no, but I know where I'm going towards. So that line of the yoga mat just offering, it's like the universe lining up. Here's where to shoot for. And that makes things make sense. I've got a goal. The goal is to try. Again, keeping fingers and toes all in that same line. Again, inhale, lengthen the spine, think half lift. Feel free to bend the knees, to take your hands to the thighs, to come up and heel toe the feet together. Again, transfer to the front edge of your mat. And then take like a good step back so there's some space to work right in front of your feet. Go back to Malasana, yogi squat. Take your time. Find your low point. Try to keep the heels on the ground. So that might mean your butt is a little higher. You soften the experience of this pose, maybe by turning your gaze low, even close your eyes if that feels comfortable enough. And just be with that opening, the stretch that comes. Place the hands at the front of the mat like they place in downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And lift your hips about halfway up so that you can turn your toes in. And place your knees on the shelf of your upper arm bones. So bend the elbows so that you have a little shelf. The more that you can take the head down and forward, the easier it should be to lift your feet up. But because we're trying to keep the head and the feet off the ground, you want to find a good balance point in Bakasana and take one or both feet off of the mat. Good way to find the balance here is to place side to side, and you might get just a little free float in the middle. Place both feet down to the mat, but now inner edges of the feet together. So this is our garland squat as you try to send your heels back to the mat If you're like me, I can get the heels to the mat in Malasana with my feet wide, toes turned out, but they don't go down here. And I remember, it's the trying that gets me to continue the journey. Walk the hands forward. Keep sending your weight down and back towards the heels, inner edges of the feet together, knees splayed wide. And then let yourself go all the way to sit back on your butt. And stretch the legs out in front. All right. I think we might have done this series last week because it's my favorite for opening in the hips. Right foot comes in, take it like tree pose. So that full external rotation. And then stretch and reach out towards the extended left leg. Bring yourself back upright and stamp the right foot flat so that the knee comes towards the shoulder line, armpit. Reach the right hand up and again try to hold on to your extended leg. It probably makes your weight fall towards the extended leg. If your right glute is off the ground here, totally fine. Either stay here or add the bind. You've got to have the shoulder drop down way low to get the upper arm bone to wrap to the front of the shin, and then bend at the elbow, try to catch behind your back, and then the other hand catches behind the back as well. If you're in the bind, release here. Everybody leans further over towards that left leg so that you can take your right heel to your seat. Change to Virasana, hero position. Here's where you might want to slide a block underneath your bum to sit up taller. Try to elevate both sides, not just the leg that's in Virasana. If you don't have a block and you're feeling really weighted over, it's okay. I'm that way too. And I'm just going to go with it. Try to keep the heel close to the butt, but the knee can go more out to the side. And still lean over the extended leg. Again, come back up. As you take the weight into the extended leg, easy release. Right foot crosses over, so that again, both sides of the butt can sit down onto the ground, and you take the twist here. Left arm to the front of the shin or the outside of the thigh to twist. This can be a really nice sequence, those 4 seated positions on either side, to take a lot longer time. So if you're ever at home, you're thinking, I just want to move a little bit, stretch a little bit on my yoga mat, come back to your center, shake it out. Give yourself, 3-4 minutes even in each of these positions. Okay, left foot in, tree pose first. So this is kind of a quick glance at the magic that happens. Forward fold. As you come back upright, you pull the knee into the chest. Ideally here, the foot stays as close to the thigh and heel as close to the perineum as possible. And then left arm up, reach in front. Take the bind if you're binding. Hold on to the outstretched foot if you'd rather. As you release here, lean towards the right leg, left heel towards your seat. So you've got that fully closed knee joint. Keep it like that so the heel stays right against the outer edge of the seat. And again, you can elevate yourself on 2 blocks to make this more even. For me, I don't have the blocks handy today, so I'm just going to slide my knee a little bit more out to the side. And then I can get a little bit more even balance and fold over. And I'm mentioning too late here, but if one of the positions doesn't work, you can always stay longer in the one that does. Okay, slowly come out of that. Release safely and take it to the twist. So left foot crosses over the right. Sit up tall and then twist. As you inhale, untwist, extend both legs out, give them a little bit of a shake. And then the best of all, seated forward fold, Paschimottanasana. Just let yourself fold over the legs. After all of the good individual work, this usually feels pretty nice. And if those words are not ringing true for you, bend the knees more, give yourself a little bit more of a bear hug and see if you can make this position feel good for you. Transition to lie down onto your back, pull your knees into the chest. And like rowboat legs, move your knees out and around in circles like you're rowing a boat. And rowboat the opposite direction, go backwards. Okay, here, step the sole of the left foot onto the ground. Stretch the right leg into the air. We've done 2 things to help ourselves since the beginning of class in this position. The first is left foot flat instead of outstretched. And then, of course, 50 minutes of stretching. So see how this one feels different. Pull the leg closer to your chest. Maybe you're holding behind the calf instead of behind the thigh now. A little bit more room. Can you stretch your left leg along the mat as well? Take your right leg out to the right side. Aim it more towards the shoulder line. Push the mound of the toes into the hand if you're grasping there, so the leg goes really as fully straight as feels right here, but still try to have enough ease that you can wiggle your toes. And then change hands. Left hand holds on to the outside of the foot or leg and take it all the way over center line. Legs make somewhat of an L shape on the ground. A lot of you were with me on Sunday's class. We worked this L shape from power positions. Here we're working for stretch. And then release the leg, take it all the way back into the center, hug both knees. Great, second side, sole of the right foot, flat down, stretch the left leg up. Again, we're hoping there's a little more ease and opening in this stretch than from the beginning. Right foot can certainly stay as is or try lengthening it along the mat. Can the left hand reach the outside edge of the left foot? Head and shoulders can come off the mat to make it happen. And then bring it out to the side. As you do so, lay the head and shoulders back down if you had lifted. Bring the leg across your center, switch your hands. There's a little bit of like a trust fall as the left leg goes over towards the right side. Again, trying to make an L shape. Lots of twist in the torso here. Okay, and then everything can kind of just bend, release, hug the knees back into the chest. Friends, any last bits of unwinding movement that you'd like, please add that in here. Whether it's literally just kind of shaking, moving around to unwind, or is there one more pose? And then we started lying back on the mat. I invite you to do the same here as we close. Let the exhale release. Again, feel a sense of heaviness. This might sound odd, but when I know I've had a good yoga practice, I always feel as though I am 2 to 3 times heavier as I lie in Shavasana. Melt into the mat, into the earth, into yourself. All of that stretch is sort of the reaching out from the mud to create the lotus. So important to nourish back in, be heavy. In that sense, using the saying, when I lean on the faith of the universe, peace becomes real. It's like leaning into yourself is the faith, is the universe. Allow yourself several more breaths in this state of heaviness, in this state of stillness. Okay, and then in your own time, if you're lying back, slowly come back to a seated position. Once in the seat, draw palms together, thumbs to the sternum. You're in Anjali Mudra. We all know it well. What do you think of as you bring the hands in? I hope the gifts that you find on your yoga mat continue off of the yoga mat through this holiday season. In this season and any, if you notice yourself getting drawn away, create this gesture, come back in, take a couple of breaths, maybe even chant Om to help you get on track. Let's chant Om together now as a way of transitioning from this space into the next and giving full honor for this time of practice. Empty out the breath. Breath in. In full gratitude to you, each other, this practice. Namaste. Okay.